thought I'd find you here. Come on, we've got a podcast to record.
Come to watch me drown my sorrows, huh? Take a good long look, because I'm in no fit state to go anywhere.
But you're drinking orange juice.
Damn, I forgot this was a Disney bar. But how'd you find me? High-tech surveillance network? Shape-shifting aliens? Were my cookies enabled?
Actually, you kept texting me about this place. You even made a meme about it, remember?
God, I love memes.
Come on, man. This could be our greatest theme month yet. I'm talking massive collaborations,
Yeah?
bombastic finales,
Yeah?
post-credit scenes galore,
Yeah!
and multiverses!
Yeah, multi what now?
Don't worry about it. Listen, all I need to know is, are you in or are you out?
I don't know. Will be cool outfits? Epic team-ups? And dramatic theme music?
Yeah, legally distinct music, yes. I'll even let you hold the big red multiverse button.
Then I'm in. But don't hold that button anywhere near me.
Fine. I'll put it down on this chair, and then we'll get going. Welcome to the Satsunami Initiative. Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of Marvel Month. My name's Satsunami and joining me today is none other than the first Avenger himself. It is Captain Andrew. Andrew, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be talking about this month's topic. It's been something I've been pushing for quite a while now.
Yeah, I have to say, we haven't really done anything other than Wonder Man, of course, which was a wonderful episode, but we haven't done as many Marvel-themed episodes, have we?
No, we did the Spider-Man month.
Yeah.
So we went into it's Marvel adjacent, and then the Tom Holland stuff is MCU, but otherwise we've not really touched on much in the way of Marvel, and it's something that I'm a big fan of generally, so I have been trying to do an episode on it for quite a while, so I'm happy this is happening now.
Because I remember when you and I were in university, there was one particular channel that you used to watch. Do you remember that? It was like the guy, he always had like either a Captain America t-shirt on or an Iron Man shirt, and he would always talk about comic things or MCU updates.
Oh.
I genuinely cannot remember the name. I can see his face. He was like an American guy, but I genuinely can't remember. Can you?
You should have told me this ahead of time. I would have had him for you.
Sorry to put you on the spot here. Yeah, I genuinely can't remember. It can't be AMC. No, that's a movie theatre.
There was an AMC movie talk that I used to watch all the time.
That might be it.
You sent me down a rabbit hole now.
Oh, apologies.
What is it?
Was it John something?
Yeah, it was JonTron. Yeah, it was JonTron. Definitely.
No, it wasn't JonTron. John Marvel.
John Marvel. Yeah, it was John Marvel. That's what it was. What's his name? Why do I subscribe to Josh Gad?
What, after Wonder Man?
No, it was very prior. About was when, remember during COVID, he was doing those reunites, the Lord of the Rings cast and that kind of stuff.
So, his AMC movie talk, but I don't know who the guy is.
There was another guy. Oh, shit, what was he called? I didn't think it was AMC movie talk you were thinking of.
John Campea?
John Campea was an AMC movie talk guy, yeah.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm thinking of.
Oh, that was? Okay. All right, fair enough.
Which, for all the Pandalorians listening, we totally did not cut out 2 minutes of us trying to Google and look up this person's name.
I have him on Facebook.
What, as a friend or
yeah,
as a page?
as a friend on Facebook.
No, you don't.
I do. I do.
What? I'm not judging your popularity here, but how did you pull that off?
So he just let anyone be a friend of his on Facebook.
Is that you sending a screenshot?
Yeah, I'm sending you a screenshot.
No way. Oh my god. Wow.
He was born in Hamilton, Ontario.
Oh. Neat. Ask him to come on the podcast. For legal reasons, that is a joke. AMC, please don't come after me.
He doesn't work for them anymore.
Well, I feel silly now.
AMC movie talk has been a thing for a long, long time.
Really?
Yeah.
And when were you going to tell me this?
I want to say it became like fandom or something, but maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Right. So it was like a rebrand or something.
Yeah, well, I think because AMC, the movie theater company, had them do this as like a promotional thing for the movie theater that they just talk about movies and stuff, and then they stopped funding that, and so the people who did that were like, well, we no longer have AMC associated with us. I think they then either disbanded or they set up other bits.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it became something else, I think. I get them mixed up with the people who do honest trailers because they did the whole movie talk kind of thing.
I mean, to be fair, I think the beginning of the MCU definitely sparked that. I mean, don't get me wrong, talk shows were obviously always there, and especially on the internet, but I feel as if the MCU was ripe for the talking about at that time. So before we dive in, because today we're going to be starting this month on a positive by talking about the rise of the MCU, I've got to ask, other than AMC movie talk, of course, what was your relationship, see, with Marvel films and superheroes in general when you were growing up? Were you a fan of them, or?
Yeah, I was a big fan of superheroes in general. There was a huge part of my kind of early childhood where I was really into things like Teen Titans. I was much more like a DC guy. Like, I love Teen Titans, I love Batman, but mostly animated side of things. And Marvel didn't really interest me as much, except for the X-Men series in the 90s. And then there was that more edgy early 2000s, I think it was, X-Men series that I used to watch as well. I don't remember. I think it was like X-Men Unlimited or something like that, something along those lines. So I was really into that. And then around the time that the MCU started becoming a thing, I remember there was a movie that came out, an animated movie called Ultimate Avengers, and I thought it was so cool. It has like a cold open with these astronauts getting blasted out of a satellite, then it cuts back to World War II where Captain America solos this Nazi castle. I was so amazed by how mature it was for like an animated property, and it was like superheroes as I hadn't seen them before. So I thought that was really cool, and so I was really invested in that capacity, and I would like learn about the characters from things like that. And then once Iron Man came out, I remember seeing that at the cinema and thinking it was really interesting. I hadn't really been a huge fan of the movies apart from maybe Spider-Man up to that point. Iron Man was the first time where I like really locked in to a Marvel movie, and from that point on I was like really invested in that. I think that, I mean, it's the start of the MCU, and it's what I was immediately hooked into that. But how about you?
So I used to have a friend in school who collected the comics, and I kind of learned about the universe through osmosis with him. He would come into school and he'd be like, oh, I'm reading this comic about Wolverine and Old Man Logan, those kind of storylines. And granted, I don't know if that predates the MCU or not, but I just remember hearing his experience, and he would play the games as well. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like one of the Wolverine games for the PlayStation 2. I remember he played that a lot whenever I was around, and it was a cool game. But I remember watching the films and thinking, yeah, they're cool enough. Spider-Man was definitely my bread and butter, though. I love the Sam Raimi films. I mean, we spoke about it in our Raimi trilogy episode, but I just love the films, despite the fact they're cheesy, over the top. Some of it doesn't hold up as well as maybe some of the other elements, but I still think it was something that really attracted me to both the character and the whole universe. And you know, we'd learn about different bits and pieces, but when they said they were going to release the first Iron Man film, I actually don't think I went to see Iron Man. I remember hearing about it and going, all right, that's nice for them, which sounds absolutely sacrilege now, but I'm not going to sit here and, you know, pretend that, oh, I was a diehard fan from day one, as it were. But it was interesting to see that it was something that was certainly developing, and I think it was definitely planting the seeds, because when I was looking into this, and the landscape for superhero films were certainly varied, weren't they? See, before Iron Man and things like that, because you had Ang Lee's Hulk, which was absolutely terrible, because I think you and I were talking about that, weren't we?
So yeah, I know that Ang Lee's Hulk came out, which did not do very well for various reasons. There was stuff like Blade was out, which was kind of like a cult film, really. Like, it wasn't really that well known. Also, because I think it was R-rated as well, I think, which didn't help its wider appeal. And then you had stuff like the X-Men films, which were pretty mixed. First two were pretty good, and then the third one was really bad and was considered really bad. You'd had the Batman films coming out up to that point, and then you had the Christopher Nolan Batman Begins film come out at that point?
The first one came out in 2005.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember seeing that in cinemas, and I wasn't, this might be sacrilege to Batman fans, I wasn't overly blown away with it at the time. I mean, The Dark Knight, of course.
Controversial opinion, I'm still not overly blown away with Batman Begins. I'm not that big a fan of it.
I mean, The Dark Knight took the wind right out of its sails when that came out, because that seems to be the definitive one of that trilogy. Everyone talks about The Dark Knight. They don't care about The Dark Knight Rises or Batman Begins. I mean, they're serviceable, but yeah, again, then you looked at it and thought, all right, this is an all right film. Apparently, the plans, see, for a wider series and things, if I remember correctly, there wasn't anything like the MCU at this point. I mean, there was crossovers and things like this every so often, but this was really, again, when I say the first of its kind, I mean the first of its kind to be so all-encompassing, so popular, so just successful. Because when I was researching this, they were saying how plans for it began in as far back as 2005, would you believe? And then they announced it at San Diego Comic-Con in 2006. Now, I've seen the footage for it, and it is so amazing how starkly different it is compared to all the other Comic-Cons after. Because you know how nowadays it's like they've got a big stage and they've got the big hall and everything, and you know, they make a meal out of it, essentially. Whereas this seemed very, like, you know, they were sitting at a table, they were saying, yeah, we've got plans for an Iron Man film.
Like a local kind of panel thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a spectacle.
It was really surreal to watch it back, because Kevin Feige, who, you know, all the Marvel fans will definitely know that name, he was supposed to lead it, but he had a very limited pool of characters to work from. And this is actually what fascinated me as well, because apparently Iron Man, do you know what company had the rights to Iron Man at the time before Marvel took them?
I had known this, but you'll have to remind me.
So it was New Line Cinema, of all people.
Right. They also owned Blade, because Blade came out through New Line.
But of course, as we know, through hindsight, the plans for that fell through. Marvel's got the filming rights back. Then, of course, we had, as we were saying there about Ang Lee's Hulk, they had issues of having to overcome the 2003 version, because it was either superhero films were absolutely fantastic, or they just weren't really that good, or they weren't really taken seriously. And I wouldn't say they're as bad as video game films, but I feel as if they're kind of on the same bar of people kind of go to see them, but they're not really expecting much from them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they kind of knew the campiness that kind of surrounded it. For many of the properties, they had that pre-existing, something like the Adam West Batman kind of thing, so people knew what Batman was about, and the Superman and his amazing friends and whatever it was called, and they would know who Aquaman was, and Wonder Woman had her own show, or that kind of thing. These were characters that were known outside of comics in this kind of media landscape, but there just wasn't that same level of knowledge and interest in these characters at that time.
No, absolutely, because I mean, I'll be the first to admit it, even as someone who had friends that were into Marvel, the amount of characters that they were talking about bringing in and everything, and it was like, yeah, I've never heard of these characters. And I think that is one of the things that was just so baffling about this whole thing. And I mean baffling in all the best ways, that they managed to take these relatively unknown characters and then turn it into this multi-billion-dollar property. I know obviously comic books have always been popular and things, but it's kind of like the D&D effect, you know, where it's like these kind of things that you would associate with people who are a bit on the more nerdy side.
The fringes of society.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden you are dragging the mainstream into this to say it's cool, it's hip, it's happening. This is why I don't work in PR, but at the same time, it was honestly amazing to see. And see, without any further ado, will we just dive into the meat of this episode and just find out what went right with the MCU?
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump into this superhero landing.
And we'll be right back after these. Oh God, my superhero landing went wrong. We'll be right back.
You gotta bend your knees.
Welcome to Satsunami, a Scottish variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests. Join me, your host, Satsunami, as well as the rest of our Chatsunami team for our takes on these very important pop culture topics.
Sir, it's clearly a trap. I accept your bait! That happens 3 times in the film. Like, every time that general goes, don't do this one thing, he goes, do you know what I'm gonna do? That's the exact
It does as well. She had the pointy teeth. What was that about?
She looked like Bilbo when he wants the ring back.
She did, didn't she? I just want the lightsaber one more time.
Parasite says, no, you will get back into your office and work.
No, says the man in Zoom. Yeah. Trousers are for the working man.
You're bursting into your hotel room. Honey, we need to go.
Leave the kids. You can milk an audition.
Oh! That's the worst thing you've ever said in any of the episodes.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated.
Stay classy and have a banana. This has been Satsunami.
I'm sorry.
Do you have to throw on your favorite true crime podcast before bed in order to fall asleep? Same. And it's the very reason that I created Serial Napper. My name is Nikki Young, and I'm here to lull you to sleep or perhaps to give you nightmares with some of the craziest true crime stories that you've never heard of. Each episode of Serial Napper features a different true crime story told succinctly the way that it happened. Just the facts, ma'am. My focus is on unsolved crimes that need more attention, cold cases, and wrongful convictions. While true crime shows can sometimes be graphic in nature, I ensure that the story is told in a way that is respectful to the victims and their families. Now, when it's time for bed, you can look forward to 30 minutes of well-researched and detailed case files while you get your beauty sleep. Find Serial Napper on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Sweet dreams.
And we are back. So, where better to start than phase one of this iconic...
Controversial,
yet iconic cinematic universe, which I have to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but did you ever hear the term cinematic universe before Marvel basically co-opted it?
No, it was very much new to me, at least, in that capacity. When it was announced, the MCU became a thing. And I don't even really know when MCU was coined. Like, at what point during the films did we have the MCU, or at least was that in common parlance?
I mean, they definitely announced it in 2006, but I don't know if they used the phrase Marvel Cinematic Universe specifically, but there were definitely plans for it, and whoever came up with that phrase was an absolute genius, because even after the MCU came to prominence and basically everybody was watching, you had other franchises try to make their own cinematic universe. Like, you had the DC cinematic universe, you had the, was it Dark Material or something like that, cinematic universe? What was the one with the mummy? Tom Cruise?
Yeah, it was like the Monsters one. It was like the Dark, I don't think it's Dark Materials.
That's Philip Pullman,
yeah.
I was like, that can't be right. Yeah, but there was Dark something. Dark Universe.
Oh, that's lame.
Is it Dark Universe? No.
It was a Dark Universe because they only made one movie.
Was it like Monster Universe? I mean, I've got a picture of Russell Crowe, and honestly, I have not been able to unsee this, by the way. See, if you look up the, whatever it's called, Monster Universe, Dark Universe, there's a group photo of them when they decided to announce that this was happening, and then obviously the Mummy reboot just absolutely bombed. But there's a photo of all of them, including one of Russell Crowe on the left-hand side, and it looks like he's supposed to be holding a cane, it looks like, but he's got his hand awkwardly at his side as if, you know, he's supposed to be holding a chair, but then Tom Cruise was like, no, I'm holding the chair. And I can't unsee it.
I think he was like Jekyll and Hyde or something.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
There was going to be like Frankenstein, Swamp Creature, Swamp Thing is from DC.
Yeah.
Creature from the Black Lagoon, maybe it was what it was.
Good old Swampy.
The Invisible Man, I think, was part of it.
The Invisible Box Office. Hey!
Hey-o.
I can say it because they don't exist anymore.
It's so interesting that Marvel did start up this whole kind of idea of separate movie entities that would kind of form into one. And you saw that even like Godzilla and King Kong, that giant monsters universe, which has its own name, which I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Not Monster Universe. I know exactly what you're talking about.
The Monsterverse.
Godzilla-verse. Kaiju-verse, which is, of course, next year. But yeah, it is. It's absolutely crazy. And again, I cannot overstate this enough. For the younger Pandalorians who are listening to this, who, you know, might have not grown up during phase 1 and 2, it's weird to think that there are children growing up nowadays that will take this for granted and think, all right, it was always planned, it was always going to be successful, it was always going to be here. You know, they had that Disney backing. I can't remember when it was, but Disney actually bought Marvel Entertainment, who were the company at the time who oversaw the films, for $4 billion. I mean, that is no pocket change. that is an utter investment that they knew that this was going to be successful, or at the very least they had an inkling that it was going to be successful. And yeah, in phase one, it is absolutely stacked because we've got films from 2008 all the way through to 2012. And Jesus, I was still in high school when this came out. Of course, so were you, Andrew. You're not that old. But we had Iron Man, we had The Incredible Hulk, we had Iron Man 2, we had Thor, we got the Captain America film, the first Avenger, and then, of course, it all culminated in the Avengers, which, again, cannot overemphasize this was a massive, massive gamble, and they pulled it off. See, when you were watching these films at the time, and they said they were building up to the Avengers, did you expect that they were ever going to get to that point?
Yes. I was so young at the time that I didn't see any reason not to believe that that would be the case, and I was so invested in whatever was coming out. I was so excited by anything that could be coming out from this world, because Iron Man was just so spectacularly cool to me. I got it on DVD after the cinema release, and I must have watched that film at least once every couple of months, because I found such an interesting it was such an interesting point in time that it came out as like a teenage boy. The AC/DC, the cars that were involved, the billionaire playboy that he was. Everyone would be like, oh, I wish I was Tony Stark. He's so cool, kind of thing. Looking back at it now, fighting against the people in the Middle East kind of side of things, now you're kind of like, bit problematic in some ways, but at the time you were like, yeah, this makes sense.
God bless you, Iron Man.
Liberating them from these people. It's like,
I don't know. I mean, he's probably making amends for being the reason there were so many weapons there. Not like real life.
yeah.
Moving on from that controversial statement.
Is it the second one or the third one that Elon Musk is in?
Is he?
Yeah, Elon Musk is in one of them.
Oh, good. That sounds about right.
Yeah, timeline-wise, it makes more sense, probably, because I don't think anyone really knew who Elon Musk was.
Yeah, he was more
prominent.
Yeah, people didn't mind him.
Well, he was quite, I mean, going to a tangent, but people quite liked him for the most part initially.
I mean, he was in everything at the time. You know, he was in The Simpsons, he was in
Rick and Morty.
Was he in The Big Bang Theory at one point?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
That sounds about right. And everyone would bow down to him, and he was like the cool nerd, and he was the one who was helping to save the planet. and then now...
I'm glad nothing changed. Yeah, it was a different time. It was a different time. And that's the thing, though, as well. It's like, it is genuinely amazing, even though, I mean, controversial, but I would say not all of the films in Phase 1 were absolute hits. I mean, I'd probably say that maybe Hulk, well, sorry, no, there's 3 films, I would, in fact, that's nearly all of the Phase. The Hulk was okay, I would say. It wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best. Thor was a bit better, I would say. Iron Man 2 maybe was the weakest of Phase 1, I would say, because I have to say I loved the Captain America film, and the Avengers, of course, we'll get on to, but yeah, out of curiosity, what's your least favourite, see, out of this roster?
Probably either between Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2.
I mean, that's fair.
It's such a weird time where they would release one movie after the other in a really kind of short period. Iron Man came out and the Incredible Hulk came out like a month later.
Just like today. This is the episode of things that age like milk.
They brought out Thunderbolts and then brought out Fantastic Four in the space of a couple of months. And I think Captain America Brave New World came out earlier that year. So they brought out 3 films in the space of 6 months from each other last year.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, did they not have tripled them? Oh, actually, no, that's controversial. That's something we'll be coming on to next week, I think, about where the budget's going. Because actually, speaking of the budget, I don't know if you know this, but apparently, I think it was the CEO at the time, Isaac Perlmutter, supposedly he was quite notoriously, or part of the reason why there were so many cuts to Phase 1. One of the most infamous, of course, being Terrence Howard being cut from Iron Man. Have you heard about this one?
I knew he was cut, but I couldn't remember why.
I think it was a breakdown in negotiations, I remember. I don't know if he wanted more money or something like that. And again, I don't know 100% if this is true, but I think Isaac Perlmutter said something very very controversial on the lines of nobody cares because they can always find another black actor to replace him, which was absolutely horrific.
You sure is that not because Terrence Howard invented his own maths?
His own maths?
You don't know about this?
Oh, do tell.
Okay, so Terrence Howard, and it's been referred to as teriology, he developed a system of logic and physics where his most famous claim is that $1 times $1 equals $2, based on the premise that multiplying anything by itself without resulting in a change renders the operation meaningless.
Okay.
The square root of 2 loops. Howard has said that the square root of $2 is proof that standard mathematics and calculations are flawed. Points out if you take the square root of $2, approximately 1.414, cube it, divide by 2, and cube it again, you continuously return to the initial value, arguing that this cycle indicates that the universe operates in loops rather than straight lines. So he has like a whole bunch of weird stuff with maths and physics that he's decided is his own rules of mathematics, and so people have called it teriology.
Honestly, I'm going to go with column A, column B here with that one. Out of curiosity, do you know who was speculated to play both Captain America and Black Widow? In Phase 1, before they cast Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans, do you know who was speculated and potentially on the line to play them? Not the same person. I just want to point that out.
Angelina Jolie.
Close.
No? Okay.
Apparently, it was Emily Blunt for Black Widow, which I find very odd because I don't remember her being... I mean, Scarlett Johansson wasn't exactly an action star then either, but yeah, just seems like a very interesting... Like, she's a great actress and she probably could pull it off, but I just find it like... Oh.
Yeah, at that point, because Emily Blunt has done some action stuff since then, I wonder... I mean, she'd done Devil Wears Prada.
Oh yeah, that sets her up. Do you know, it's scary because I was thinking the exact same thing. I mean, like, oh yeah, Devil Wears Prada, the cutthroat business of the fashion world. But the other person who was speculated, and I don't know if this was just rumour, speculation, or if it was ever confirmed, but the other one that I came across was Will Smith as Captain America. Have you ever heard of this one?
Would they have made him super jacked? Would they have gotten Will Smith super yoked? Because like, it's a big thing for Captain America that he's like absolutely shredded, and Will Smith he's not a strong fit guy, but he's not big. I can't see him having the kind of frame that would get big like that.
They could probably just pad the shirt. I think they did that for one of the actors, but I can't remember who it was.
Do you remember the really weird CGI they did for Chris Evans for his skinny moments in the original Captain America?
Yeah, where it was like a big head and this really tiny, disproportionate body.
Yeah, it's like Victorian child body.
Greetings! I have just come back from the workhouse. It's like, what is going on here?
You boy, what day is it? White Christmas Day, sir.
Then we still have time to stop Red Skull. Come with me. When is Scrooge getting into the Avengers? That's what I want to know.
Oh, the Dickens Cinematic Universe.
DCU, yes!
Get Hollywood on the line. Mr. Hollywood.
Getting over twisting. Fagin, I'm putting together a team. Yes. Okay, make us happen.
The Artful Dodger is Nick Fury.
Forget the rest of this month, by the way. We're going to put all effort into coming up with the best lineup for the DCU. Oh, anyway, sorry.
What about Simba Jr.? I've been trying to push that whole month.
We'll do that next season, dang it. I don't know how much I want to do a month of it, but we need to do an episode for Simba Jr. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, trust me, in a few months you will. Until then.
You will be as obsessed with the Simba Jr. cinematic universe as I am.
You're not wrong. Honestly, Pandalorians, I get texts frequently, sometimes in the early hours of the morning, just like, hey, you know about Simba Jr.?
Lord and Savior Simba Jr. This isn't funny to anyone else who doesn't know about this stupid ass thing. This stupid Italian cartoon from 1989. I'm sorry, everyone.
Where was Simba Jr. during the events of the Avengers?
When the West Wall fell.
Exactly. So
Simba Jr.
No, Simba Jr. We've moved on, Andrew. Let it go. Much like Mufasa, let it go. Come on. I know, too soon. As I said, it was just such an interesting period, and this is something I was saying to you as well before we started recording about Thor, that because at the time Spider-Man was owned by Sony Pictures, of course, and they were supposed to be releasing Spider-Man 4, which they never did, and it hurts my heart to this day, so they decided, we're going to push up Thor to come out.
Really? You were upset that they didn't release Spider-Man 4?
I mean, at the time, no, but looking back back on it as like what could have been.
I don't know.
Funny enough, and I am not joking about this, by the way, I think it was last year, the year before, sometime during the lockdowns, there was an account on Twitter that posted behind the scenes photos of the props that they were going to use for Spider-Man 4, including the vulture wings and things. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. Who is this whistleblower that revealed this information? And anyway, it was a guy called Ken Penders.
It was Ken Penders.
It was Ken Penders, the infamous
The Sonic
Sonic
guy.
artist. Yeah, I'm actually really proud you remember who Ken Penders is. But yeah, it was him of all people. I was like, even the comments were like, Ken, what are you doing? Like,
Go right back to my kidneys, Ken.
again, elite ball knowledge there, but still, I'm like, what is happening in the world? Oh, COVID broke everybody back then. But yeah, moving on from that. Ken Penders and Simba Jr., two things that no one else will care about but us.
So easy to distract either one of us with either Simba Jr. or Ken Penders.
It's like jangling keys nowadays. It's like, yep, look at that. But yeah, of course. Then we get to 2012 where we have the finale of Phase 1, which is, of course, the Avengers. I cannot remember for the life of me if I went to see this in the cinema. I am 90% sure, but did you see this in the cinema?
Oh, hell yeah. Because it came out, I'm pretty sure, in like May of that year. And it's so corny now, but at the time, at the end of our exams in high school, my friends and I would have what we called Big Day Out. And what that was that we would go to the nearby kind of cinema complex. And there was like a bowling alley there, a mini golf place, and lots of food options. And so we would like go do bowling, get food, and then go to the cinema. And it was the big kind of celebration that the school year was done. And I remember we did that and watched the Avengers. I was like one of the like core memories for me growing up. So like I have such a special place for that movie, just from like the experience of it, as well as how much fun I had watching the film itself.
Since I potentially saw it in the cinema, I'm sure I saw it with my friend, but I remember you and I watched it when we first met in uni because it came on TV a year or two after it had released. And I just remember watching it, and I think that's when you introduced me to John Marvel the AMC cinema talk. Honestly, it was really cool because I think then that you and I started talking about the different films, and that brings me on to Phase 2, because did you and I go to see any of these films?
We must have done.
Guardians of the Galaxy, surely, or The Winter Soldier, one of the two.
I feel like there would have been one of these films we did. It would kind of depend on the time of year, I guess, because during the summer we weren't around each other as much. Yeah, so I would imagine we probably did. It's hard to say. I mean, I saw all of these at the cinema. Just don't remember if I saw them with you.
Yeah, because I definitely saw Guardians, Age of Ultron, and The Winter Soldier. I didn't see Iron Man 3 because I had heard about the negative things about it, you know, and we all know why, because of the Mandarin twist, because of the jokes. It's not great. Also, the guy who told you to F off on Twitter, which I always laugh at when you remind me of that.
Oh, the Team 4-star guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, him.
I still can't believe it's when you brought that up. I was like, yeah, no, you're just joking. And you're like, no, I'm deadly serious. He told me to F off. I'm like, oh, that colours my opinions on them greatly.
I was saying when Thor: The Dark World came out, because I came out in 2013, so I was in university at the time. It came out like November 2013.
Yeah.
But you and I, were we friends enough that we were going to the cinema together? I can't think.
We saw The Revenant together.
When did that come out, though?
I don't know.
That came out in 2015.
Yeah, well, we were friends.
You had graduated, I think.
No, in 2015, or after that, yeah. No, but when they first met, I remember the first semester we were talking and everything, getting to know one another, but it wasn't until the second semester that, like the end of the first semester into the second.
That's what I'm kind of thinking, because we did hang out in the first semester, but I don't think we would have seen the film together.
We definitely saw films together, but I genuinely can't remember. With the exception of Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, it's a relatively solid startup. And there are some really interesting facts about this phase, because apparently, and I genuinely didn't know this, that Robert Downey Jr. only had a contract for Iron Man up until Iron Man 3, which I thought, that is one hell of a gamble they've got going on for Iron Man. But fortunately, he came back and everything. But I think phase 2 is definitely where they solidified themselves else, because even with Guardians of the Galaxy, and again, I had no idea who the Guardians of the Galaxy were.
That was their biggest gamble.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
For a lot of them, they were pretty unknown, but still had somewhat of like a comic history. Guardians of the Galaxy was a very niche property. It took some real comic heads that knew about them. Even a lot of people who were like familiar with comic books weren't familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember when it was announced and soon to come out on AMC Movie Talk, they were talking about it and how like none of them were familiar with it. And so they had one of their friends come in who knew about it, and he was the one that would tell them all about like how cool Rocket Raccoon was, how cool Groot was, that kind of stuff.
I think even Marvel thought that as well. They were genuinely like, I don't know, guys. As we were saying there, they were genuinely unknown characters. But the gamble paid off. And honestly, I don't know how you feel about it, but personally for me, I would say it's one of my favourite parts of the MCU, next to the Captain America stuff. The Winter Soldier, I think, is a solid film, because even my family, who absolutely, I wouldn't say they hate superhero films, but they're just not a fan of that kind of fantastical genre. But we watched The Winter Soldier together, and they just loved the fact that it was more like a spy thriller.
Like the Mancunian candidate kind of thing.
Exactly. And I mean, that is one of the strengths about why this whole thing is so popular, is because there was such a diversity in terms of the genres that they were putting out. It wasn't just the same, although we'll get to that, it wasn't just the same film over and over again. They were kind of experimenting with different things. Some worked better than others. You know, with Thor, they had the more mythological parts in it. With Iron Man, it was like the cool bombastic tech. Captain America was more the espionage side, and it all blended together. And then you're telling me that they've got this comedy / drama in space with Guardians of the Galaxy, and you're like, there's no way this is working. There is no way. And they just blew everybody's socks off.
What's so interesting with Phase 2 is so many of them felt like really experimental with different kind of properties and different kind of ideas for superhero genre. Like Ant-Man that came out at the end of that phase.
Which is so weird.
It's a heist movie. It's a superhero heist movie, which is so interesting. I'm not a huge fan of Ant-Man in terms of the movie, but I think it's fun. And I think that what they did with it is very interesting. And then you have the spy thriller with Winter Soldier. You have this sci-fi comedy with Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever Thor the Dark World was.
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston, we love you, but I'm so sorry you had to do Thor the Dark World.
Those three films very much showed that they were willing to be a bit more experimental with what they were doing. And I would say, like, even Ant-Man didn't do as well as the other two, but all three of them were successes, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. The only one that I would say was a bit of a stumbling block was probably the second Avengers film, Age of Ultron, which, again, I find it so weird, and I don't know the reason for this, but I genuinely find it so weird that they went with Age of Ultron before Ant-Man to finish off the phase 2.
They've done that for a couple of the phases where you kind of expect the Avengers film to be like the culmination, like the finale to that phase, but then they'll end in a Spider-Man movie or something like that. And so instead of finishing with Age of Ultron, they finish with Ant-Man.
Because the thing with Age of Ultron, and I feel as if this is definitely something we'll be deep diving into next week when we talk about the downfall of the MCU, and trust me, we've got a lot to say about that, but I feel as if Age of Ultron was definitely a microcosm of what was wrong with the MCU, or rather what problems would be amplified in the future. So it's something we haven't really talked about, but one of the things that the MCU really popularised, and obviously it's not the first film to do this, but they popularised the after credit scenes where, you know, if you sat long enough in your backside, then you would get a mid-credit scene where the big bad villain who they were building up would come out the shadows, and, you know, they would do the big monologue, and then it would cut to black. You're like, oh my god, who is this guy? And then they would have one at the very, very end where it was just a kind of throwaway, jokey one. And for Age of Ultron, they kind of ramped it up a bit because it was very invested in trying to set up other films. And I know why they did it. I know that they have to have a film to set up all the other films coming up. And I don't think it's the worst film the MCU's ever put out, but it definitely wasn't the strongest. And I think as well, what didn't help, and this is something I was saying to you as well before recording, was the press cycle in the UK. Now, I don't know how it was in the US, if you guys listening in the US or abroad heard about this, but there were two particular instances that I remember hearing about, and granted, I don't know if this particular interview was abroad, but they definitely were talking about it here. But it was where a female presenter was asking Jeremy Renner and Chris Evans about the character of Black Widow, and she asks, oh, why does this character fall in love with the Hulk? Which even I was asking that when I was watching the film. I thought, okay, weird choice, but fair enough. But Jeremy Renner said, oh, it's because she's a slut, which caused a reaction from Chris Evans. He started laughing. I don't think it was the worst thing that's ever happened in the MCU, but they definitely went into full-blown damage control to be like, okay, that wasn't acceptable to say, we're very sorry. Kind of glad they did, but at the same time, it's obvious because it's like a company mandated thing that they've been told, you get back out there and you say sorry right now, like a parent. But the other thing that really sticks in my mind, and it has been burned into my memory, genuinely just YouTube it, Robert Downey Jr. walks out of interview is probably what you can find it on. But he was doing an interview with a channel over here called Channel 4, and long story short, one of the interviewers got very invasive with his questions, asking about Robert Downey Jr.'s previous drug addictions, asking him, did he feel like a different person when he came out of prison? To which, of course, Robert Downey Jr. was like, well, you know, this is a press cycle about a superhero film, can we keep it on topic? And then eventually when the guy kept pressing, he was like, no, sorry, I'm out. And he was very respectful about it, but he was just like, no, I'm not going to entertain this. Do you remember this? Like, I wouldn't say it was a full-blown, oh, they were cancelling everybody, but do you remember this at the time? That it was the first time there was a somewhat negative buzz around the MCU. I wouldn't say overly, but...
Yeah, there was a bit of discontent following Age of Ultron.
I suppose that started with Iron Man 3, though.
I don't know, because I think I'm often in the minority in how much I dislike Iron Man 3. I don't think it was as popular as the other kind of films, but like Thor, The Dark World certainly was the start of people being like, these aren't all hits. This one was a bit of a dud. And then the kind of excitement prior to Ultron, because Ultron is one of like the serious kind of Avengers villain. The first Avengers film, the villain was Loki. And we already knew about Loki. We'd already dealt with Loki. And Loki isn't really like an Avengers villain. He's a Thor villain. He just kind of got thrown into the Avengers film.
Pulled off of the bench. Go on, Jim. You've got this. Hit a home run, slugger.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was kind of an odd one
Yeah.
for him to be the main villain of that film. It worked. I really love the first Avengers movie. I think that everything in it's really, the whole villain kind of side of things is done pretty well.
Yeah.
But Ultron is one of the main Avengers
Threats, yeah.
yeah, big threats kind of thing. And so having that kind of hype for that movie and a lot of the promotional material for it was really cool and really interesting. The whole Pinocchio, that he's like a puppet and there's no strings on him kind of thing. I think James Spader was the voice actor for Ultron. He did a fantastic job. That's one of the real kind of highlights of the movie. But it didn't really live up to the potential that I think it could have done. I hope that they're not done with Ultron.
Well, they keep bringing them back in the what ifs, don't they?
Yes, but I mean, they will eventually kind of exhaust, unless they eventually decide to kind of wrap up the MCU or reboot it, which is quite possible. They'll eventually run out of like the main big bads and big threats and kind of stuff that they haven't already kind of covered. So I think Ultron is an obvious one to kind of bring back because for one thing, he can download his conscience and just sit hibernating until he's ready to show up and be more of a threat again. But the way they used him wasn't terrible. I think that there was certainly an interesting kind of aspect to him, but he just didn't pose enough of a threat. There was a movie, I mentioned the Ultimate Avengers animated movie earlier that I absolutely adored. And the main threat in those movies was the Chitauri, which was like this alien invasion. But then there was another movie, which I assumed when I was a child, or rather a young teenager, was also kind of part of it, but I realize now that it was a completely separate kind of movie and universe. There was the Next Avengers, I think it was called, and it was the children of the Avengers.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And most of the Avengers had died facing Ultron, and Tony Stark had taken their children up to this like facility in the middle of nowhere to hide them and raise them and train them until they're ready. And you saw it showed how big a threat Ultron was, that he took out pretty much the entire Avengers team, and he was so intimidating in this animated film. And so that's kind of what I was expecting, because I saw that prior to Age of Ultron coming out, and when he didn't really pose that much of a threat, that was quite disappointing.
Yeah, because they really bigged him up, you know, as this all-encompassing villain, and they could have done something really interesting with him, but then they were just like, oh yeah, let's duplicate him and then make him a big scary bad guy, and it's like,
I didn't mind find, because I mean, that is what Ultron does. Ultron's thing is that he is infinite. He keeps having multiple versions of himself, but all the versions of themselves are those weak little robots that didn't actually do very much. What kind of complicated as well was because they wanted to introduce Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Yeah,
into
no, it's
it.
confusing because is he not an X-Man technically?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Getting into the weeds now, yeah.
So both Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are both mutants from the X-Men universe, but because of a certain legal loophole, they are able to be used by both Fox at the time, now owned by Disney anyway, and MCU Disney. That's why they were the only characters that could be used. And I don't think that Fox ever used Scarlet Witch. They just used Quicksilver, but they decided to bring them in. And Quicksilver is such a fun speedster character, which we hadn't had a speedster in the MCU up to that point. And so when they killed him off in that movie, I was kind of like, oh, really? I love a speedster character. They're fun.
Yeah, you're right. It's actually quite funny that we don't have any speedster heroes or anything. I know because you've got the Flash and the DC universe and you don't want parallels drawn between them, but yeah, it's kind of a niche that they haven't tapped into, isn't it?
Well, and I won't blame you if you've not actually watched this film. Did you watch Eternals?
I know of it.
Yeah, okay.
I know they are like kind of Dragon Ball characters, essentially. They've got the godlike powers and they're...
Each of them has their own thing. One of them is kind of like Superman, but one of them is a speedster, and I don't know any of the names, don't at me.
No. Google it.
One of them's a speedster, and she uses her speed powers in a really kind of fun, interesting way during this like final battle. And whenever Quicksilver is on screen, I think it's much more interesting in terms of how they use speed powers as opposed to like how you've seen the Flash use it in a lot of DC stuff. The Fox X-Men use of Quicksilver was the most fun. I don't know if you remember, I think we went to the cinema and saw that one together where Quicksilver essentially like pauses time and playing his music. I don't quite understand. He must play his music on 1,000,000 times speed or something like that so that he can hear it while time is slowed down.
Do you know how I remember we 100% saw that film? Because remember at the very beginning where it's like the dystopian war-torn rubble, and I just leaned over to you and said,
Present day Detroit.
Present day Detroit. And we were cackling for the fun. I mean, we must have looked like psychos, all these people getting gunned down. It's like, haha, it's Detroit. Oh, dear.
Sorry, Detroit.
Yeah, sorry, we love you, Rolly, but... I've asked my American friends and they've said it's okay.
I have such a nostalgia for Captain America, the First Avenger. I went to go see that with my brother at the cinema, and we were cackling at making fun of the different scenes in the movie. Because throughout the movie, he keeps talking about like how he's from Queens, or I'm pretty sure it's Queens that he's from, or like the Bronx, or whatever. Some kind of
Brooklyn? No.
Is it Brooklyn? It's some borough of New York that he's from. And he keeps referencing this. And then towards the end of the film, they get on this Hydra airship that has all these bombs labeled with like different cities. And later my brother said like one of them just has Brooklyn on it, specifically his place. We were dying laughing, and then he wakes up present day, and like Nick Fury's there, and I was like, good thing he's not a giant racist from the 1940s.
But yeah, after we got to the end of the second phase, which as I said, kind of mixed reviews, but still very positive at the time, we got an announcement in 2015, which was very fascinating, that Spider-Man would be returning. I have to say, and again, you can listen to our Spider-Man in the MCU episode for this one, but I would say that it was interesting how people were reacting to it, because we had the conversations about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, then we had the conversation about Andrew Garfield and his less than stellar 2014 outing with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then we were getting a brand new Spider-Man 2 years later, and it was too soon. And of course we got the preview for it.
Let him grieve of a Gwen for just a little bit longer.
His webs are still warm. Yeah, you're not wrong. But still, it was interesting. And I remember people being, again, it's the internet, they're always going to be mad about something, but I wouldn't say people were overly hyped about it. Like, they were hyped about Spider-Man coming back, but the only clip we literally got before Phase 3 kicked off in Captain America Civil War, which I always think this is an Avengers film. Whenever I read Captain America Civil War, I'm like, really? It's not an Avengers Avengers film because it feels more of an Avengers film than it does a Captain America. But anyway, so that's a nitpick. But of course, we got that one clip where he steals Cap's shield and everything. Literally, all he says is Tom Holland saying, "Hey, everyone."
I was trying to remember, did we know that Spider-Man was going to be in it prior to the film?
I mean, they released the teaser for him.
Oh, maybe in the trailer we did see that, and that was a big hype moment there.
Yeah, I can't remember when, right enough, but we definitely got that clip of him saying, "Hey, everybody." Imagine someone starting a conversation like, "Hey, everybody." You know, couldn't be me. Hello, everybody. Anyway, but it was interesting to see what they were going to do with his character. And again, I've got mixed opinions. He's a good enough Spider-Man, I think. But yeah, how did you feel? See, going into phase 3, because genuinely this is a chunky phase. We've got Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I will admit I only watched a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really? I don't like it.
I would say good, but it genuinely wasn't as strong as the first one. And I think people will say, oh, the third one's better.
Have you seen the third one yet?
Yeah, I've seen the third one, but I think that's because of animal manipulation.
No.
I mean, the puppy dog eyes from a raccoon. Come on now.
Yes, that does get you in the feels. However, I do genuinely think it was far better. The third was far better than the second one. And I do think The Guardians 3 is one of the best Marvel films for the last 5 or so years.
I've got a bit of bias as well because you know the Soviet dog that follows them around?
Yes.
With the psychic powers. She looks very much like my dog. And I think I sent you pictures being like, oh my God, did Marvel take my dog for a while or something? Because it's like a bigger version. And I was like, oh, it's very scary.
Luna's a very space-like name, so...
True, very true. Looking back quickly onto Guardians 2, though, I did skip through a wee bit because it was plodding. See that whole scene where it's like Groot's trying to find the key and it's like the first time or two, it's like, oh, haha, but then it's like, okay, this could have genuinely been cut down. That could have been an email, that scene. But then immediately after that, I mean, you're not wrong about the schedule. Jesus, these came out one after the other. Literally 2 months after Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we got Spider-Man Homecoming. I mean, it's alright. It's good, but it's alright, isn't it? I mean, we've got a whole episode on this, but it was okay.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's alright.
It's the best Spider-Man film we've gotten outside of maybe Spider-Man 2.
Moving on. We've got Thor Ragnarok as well, which I have very mixed feelings about Thor Ragnarok because
you hate Taika Waititi.
I don't like him, I'm sorry. I find if you inflate his ego even a tiny bit, he will take that running and we get Thor Love and Thunder, which trust me, I'll save for next time. But Ragnarok I did actually like. I liked the idea that they were taking Thor from kind of serious character to a more comedic character, but they definitely flanderized them immediately after Ragnarok. They just made up, except for Infinity War and Endgame, they definitely flanderized them. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Ragnarok just before we go on? Because I'm quite curious.
I love Thor Ragnarok. I think it's the best Thor movie. I remember at the time watching it and thinking it was one of the funniest Marvel movies I'd seen.
I think I watched this on a plane. That's got no bearing on your...
Yeah, I was going to say.
I clicked when I was like, where did I see this? Oh yeah, when I was on the plane.
I definitely saw it at the cinema. I just don't remember when.
I actually think I saw this the first time I went over to China because I was like really surprised. Is Thor Ragnarok not out? Yeah.
I don't see that as much at the moment, but I remember years ago, sometimes I get on a plane, I would have movies that were still out at the cinema, and I'd be like, how do they have this? So yeah, I remember watching some very up-to-date movies when I would fly. We're talking 10 years ago now, but still.
I mean, even when my partner and we went over to China last year, time is a flat circle. Yeah, it was last year when we did the 5-year anniversary, and I was looking at the films, and don't get me wrong, there were some relatively up-to-date ones, but yeah, it was mainly the classics. I mean, they had Lord of the Rings, they had War of the Rohirrim of all things. I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm putting on War of the Rohirrim again.
Nice.
And Aliens 2, which is fantastic. We need to have an Aliens month at some point. So good. But anyway, going back to the MCU. Yeah, then we had Black Panther the year after, which, yeah, that was a good film. And then we got into these were like the the big ones. And that's something that we haven't really mentioned in this episode yet, but this whole phase 1 to 3 was known as the Infinity Saga, and it focused around, basically throughout the films there was a different type of thing called an Infinity Stone. Long story short, each one has different powers, like Captain Planet. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but they had different powers, and this alien called Thanos wanted them. That was the thing as well. It's something that we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. I had no idea who Thanos was, and I don't think any of my friends knew either. Nobody knew, and yet somehow they took him from, oh right, this weird purple guy who's at the end of all of these MCU films, to all of a sudden, see, pop culture wise, would you say all of a sudden he is really well known in terms of...
Oh, yeah. References and memes and stuff that are very much in kind of common
verbiage.
Yeah, I was going to say parlance again. I feel like I've already used that once. I feel like you can only say parlance once in a podcast episode.
Oh no, I need to make some calls.
There's a limit.
Yeah.
Cultural zeitgeist certainly has, like, Thanos is a much more prominent person in media now. When the first Avengers film came out, and there was that end credit scene where it's like, I'll do it myself kind of thing, of like Thanos on his throne, there was definitely a lot of people, even who were like semi-familiar with comics, who were like, who? But I mean, he is a well-known Avengers villain and threat. Just I wasn't familiar enough with Marvel stuff to know who he was. I had to look up after watching that movie who the hell he was, and then I was very familiar afterwards. But now I would say people know him as one of the biggest villains in media history.
I have to say, out of context, and I can't remember what cartoon it was, but it was one of the Avengers ones where they fight
The
Thanos.
Thanos copter?
No, but I'm going to ask you that after the episode because that sounds very fascinating. But no, there's one where it's like he's got the time stone and he's making all of the Avengers old till they crumble to dust. And he even gets the Hulk. He has to blast them a couple of times. But then he blasts Thor, and Thor's like, you do realise that making gods older only makes us stronger.
Yeah.
And he beats the shit out of Thanos, so much so that he has to reverse the time thing, which then of course brings back the Avengers. I just find that so funny. I was just like, okay, that is so cool, but also very funny.
There's some interesting stuff with Thor they've not done yet, because there's like Old Man Thor is like a really cool, strong Thor, and then there's Rune Master Thor or something.
Yeah.
Can't remember what he's called exactly. God Rune Thor or something. It's supposed to be him at his most powerful state. So I'd be interested to see if we get to that at any point in the future of the MCU, because Chris Hemsworth's Thor, I don't think has much left in it. I think Chris Hemsworth wants to kind of leave the character before long, so they'll either have to recast or reboot the Thor character.
To be honest, they could do a Doctor Who thing and hit him with lightning and, no, I've changed face, and yeah.
I'm now Liam Hemsworth.
Oh, damn it. Or sorry, Odin, damn it.
The Witcher all over again.
Oh, God, don't remind me. He just turns into Henry Cavill. It's like, I don't know how to feel about this, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, speaking of surprises, let's just say, yeah, we get to Infinity War in 2018, where, can I confess something, quite possibly one of the worst things I'll ever say in this podcast? I never watched Infinity War when it came out.
I was going to say, have you seen it now?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I watched them during the lockdowns because I remember I texted you. There's a scene in it where I think it's Wanda and Vision. They're walking up Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't click with me. I was like, all right, they're in a street. It's a cobbled street. What's new? And I saw in the background.
They were like Waverley train station.
All I know is it was on STV News and they were really raving about it, being like, the Avengers is filming here. But what I noticed in the background, there's a sign right behind them on the window saying, we'll deep fry anything, with a big Scottish flag at the back of it. And I was like, that's what it was like. I was like, hey, a minute, they're in Scotland. I was like, oh my God, they're in Scotland. And I was texting you and you're like, Satsu, have you seen this film before? I'm like, nope. That's why I'm so excited. But in a way, I'm a little bit sad I never saw it in the cinema. And I know they're bringing it back technically, but I was a bit disappointed because Infinity War, personally to me, I would say it's probably one of, if not the best film in this entire saga. I would say it's better than Endgame personally. Not that I would say Endgame's a bad film. I think it's just too clunky for its own boots. Endgame was alright, but Infinity War was definitely the stronger of the two. And between them, it's weird because this was genuinely such a, how to describe it? It was such a mammoth event with both Infinity War and Endgame and the whole don't spoil the film kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was very key moments in both films that were very much like a don't spoil it kind of moment. And it was very interesting because there was very few films like this from the MCU where you had such like a cliffhanger ending that kind of left you going like, oh, when's the next going to come out. I'm so excited for the next one. Obviously, you were kind of left a lot of these Marvel movies interested in what was going to happen next, but the way that it ended in such kind of like a we were defeated way that you kind of were like, well, what's going to happen now was so interesting.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I remember watching back to back. I watched Infinity War, I watched Endgame, and it was amazing to see it all play out. Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel, I feel as if, especially Captain Marvel, I am so sick of seeing people who hate the MCU. And I mean, you can dislike the MCU for valid reasons, but see people who use Captain Marvel in their thumbnails and things to say the MCU's dying. Please, for the love of God, get a proper job.
It was such an okay film. I don't think it was one of the best films in Marvel, but it wasn't nearly as bad as people who are hating on Marvel and hating on a particular group of people.
Yeah, well, exactly.
The way that they were responding to that. I had a lot of fun watching that film. And to be honest, when in the more recent phase, like The Marvels, I really enjoyed that one too. That one got loads of hate on it and didn't do very well. But people have their own agendas, and you're welcome to have an opinion on a movie, but I just feel like a lot of people have their opinion for the wrong reason, if you know what I mean.
Oh no, 100%. And after Endgame, again, it's another weird thing where from phase 2, you know, we had Ant-Man to finish it off, and phase 3 we had Spider-Man Far From Home, which I have to say was a decent film, but the one thing that really stood out to me was the advertising, which I genuinely think is one of the dumbest things ever, because they were advertising it obviously before Endgame or during Endgame, and they were saying, oh, by the way, this trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home has a spoiler for Endgame, so don't watch it. And I kid you not, the first 5 seconds, they just spoil the whole thing. They're like, oh, so-and-so's dead. And you're like, oh, wow, you couldn't even wait 5 seconds.
I didn't remember that.
Tom Holland was at the very beginning of the trailer as himself, and he's like, hey guys, there's going to be a spoiler at the beginning, so don't watch this if you haven't watched Endgame. And I thought, it's fine, you know, how bad can it be? And he's dead. Oh my God.
Oh, I see. So after the movie had already come out of the cinemas, they did, oh, I gotcha.
It was either after or literally just as it was out, because I think they were really holding back in advertising Spider-Man Far From Home and everything.
It's such a key part of it.
Exactly, yeah.
It's about Tony Stark.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, you spoiled it now.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
But see, overall, as a kind of wrapping up point, because we've talked about phases 1 through 3, and genuinely it is amazing how it all came together, because they proved that they knew how to generate hype, whether that was through Comic-Con, whether that was through trailers, because even the Ant-Man one that was really cute, they had like a trailer, I think it was for the Ant-Man and the Wasp, they had an ant-sized trailer at one of the Comic-Cons before they blew it up the day after and showed everyone it. It was really funny. You know, it showed that, and again, not to get too sappy, there was like a hero for everyone. There was constant payoffs, even though there was a few guff films, we managed to get really cool ones. And they managed to introduce something that was initially considered a geeky topic, or not geeky topic, but a geeky fandom and everything. And don't get me wrong, it still is a geeky fandom, but they have managed to popularise it and put it in the mainstream. Not to mention, of course, all of these spectacular Stan Lee cameos, which they brought out in this phase, which I actually can't remember when the last Stan Lee cameo was.
Captain Marvel.
Was it Captain Marvel?
No, that's not true. The last one he filmed was Captain Marvel, but the last one he was in was Endgame.
Oh, of course.
Because he was the delivery man in Endgame for Mr. Stunk, or whatever it was.
Oh, of course, yeah. And honestly, I feel as if that was, again, I don't want to be too bad and say that's when things started to go downhill, but yeah, before we wrap up, what are your final thoughts, see, about this whole saga?
Yeah, I mean, it was such an interesting kind of time in history for comic book movies, from the media landscape, where you had this kind of huge culmination of stories and characters coming together. They kind of ended with this. So that was a really kind of unique part of movies, but it was absolutely fantastic kind of being a part of that.
No, absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, the good faith of the Infinity Saga and phases 1 through 3, despite proving that they could do this, yeah, that started to fall by the wayside when we got into what is aptly dubbed the Multiverse Saga, which of course we will be deep diving into next week. But until then, true believers,
Excelsior!
And especially you, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me and talking about the rise of the MCU.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was really, really fun to get into that.
So if you guys would like to listen to more episodes of Marvel Month, as well as other episodes that we've done together, then you can check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. I also want to give a huge shout out to our Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster, Ghostie, and Cryptic 1991. Thank you so much for the support. And if you would like early access to episodes, exclusive content, commentary tracks, all the juicy content, then you can check us out at our Patreon page, patreon.com/chatsunami. This podcast is a proud member of the Podpack Collective. For more information, check us out at our Twitter/X page at Podpack Collect. But until next time, thank you all so much for listening. Stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated. You know, Andrew, that episode actually wasn't half bad. And here I thought we needed 2 episodes to discuss the rest of the MCU.
Oh god, no, can you imagine?
I think if we keep this up all month, then we should be good as gold. Now, let me just sit down, have some shawarma, and I think we're going to need another episode.